Cashflow Diary Podcast, episode 43.
Congratulations, you showed up. Give yourself a high five in celebration of your success. Welcome to the Cashflow Diary, where new and experienced investors come to take confident action towards their goals. Your host is a family man, a real estate entrepreneur, investor, coach, and instructor. As a master facilitator of Robert Kiyosaki's Cashflow 101 game, he's inspired many to begin their journey into creating cash flow for themselves and their family. And now, here he is to offer you the tools required to earn the income desired. Your cash flow coach, Jay Massey.
Welcome. If you did not get the previous episode, make sure you do, because this is part 2 of what I think is an incredible episode with Mr. Eric Kaufmann. We will get straight to it. I've got a couple of announcements because we have been busy here in the new year. As many of you already know, learninvestingnow.com, we've been telling you about that, our mastermind group. Yes, that's the word I was looking for. Anyway, mastermind group. We're about to do another one. This time it is all on raising private capital. As you guys know, I do these groups continuously, but I only do one subject at a time. And usually that subject only happens once a year. So this is the time of year right now. If you want to learn how to raise private capital, that's exactly what we're going to be doing. I'm going to be with you live for 12 consecutive weeks. Make sure you go over to learninvestingnow.com. Now, also understand you're going to get about 4.5 hours of completely free videos that I've already created by being over there. And for those of you that want to be a part of the mastermind group, today is likely the last day you'll be able to get in. Feel free to send us an email if you're getting this after today, which is fine. However, just know that I do my best to keep the group small, no more than 12 people in any one group. It's all delivered electronically, no matter where you are in the world. We are set up to accommodate you. So long as you speak English, come on in. If you want to learn to raise capital, that's what we're going to talk about, whether that be for, a music project, a movie, a business, an iPhone app. I don't really care. Yes, of course, real estate. The process of raising capital has more to do with people than your project, and that's what we're going to be definitely talking about. Also, during this process, you guys have taught me something, and we've listened. You like the idea of having access and more or less me review some of your deals. So I've decided that we're going to do so. In fact, we're going to do so in the same live format that we did a couple of weeks ago. It was a lot of fun for me. And we're going to start it this coming weekend. And you're going to need to be tuned in to cashflowdiary.tv, cashflowdiary.tv. I'm going to be there live answering your questions about your deals. So it's a live deal review. So if you have a deal that you're stuck with, you're trying to get it under contract, you're trying to raise private capital, you're trying to figure out what the next step is, you need to send that deal over to dealreview@cashflowdiary.com. Now, clearly, the part of the fun is I'm not going to really review the deal a whole bunch ahead of time. I'm going to kind of do it on the fly because that's going to be fun for me. And there's a lot of you and there's a little me. All right. So understand that our current cashflowdiary.com members will be given priority. However, we'll do our best to get to every deal that's sent in. That's dealreview@cashflowdiary.com. Or if you're like, I'd just rather tell you about it, that's fine. Call in on our line at 800-689-1764, 800-689-1764. And again, I'm going to be answering it live, broadcasting live. It'll be awesome, and we'll be able to get that going. Speaking of more broadcasting and more information for you, told you we had a lot going on right now. We're just busy over here at the office. I'm just very, very buzzing, very, very excited. Glad to get things done. I'm almost done with this section, guys. But you've got to know now about Cashflow Diary Daily, because we've heard again and responding, and we've got lots of stuff in the archives from either some of my recorded sessions, either when I'm at, speaking in groups or what have you. So Cashflow Diary Daily, it is a new podcast that has been launched, is in iTunes, and is receiving lots of downloads. Feel free if you want more. Now, understand this. It's only 2 to 5 minutes on those episodes, and it's meant to give you one thing that you can implement or utilize that day to keep yourself moving forward. That's it. Nothing more, nothing less. And if this is your first time listening, I apologize. We normally don't have this many announcements before we get to everything, but I just wanted to make sure we got it out there. But I will also say to you listening for the first time, go back to listen to episode number 1 to understand a little bit more about the background of the show, myself, etc., if that's something that absolutely interests you, because I believe it will help you. Now, with that being said, for those of you that have enjoyed the previous episode of the, episode 42, where we were talking with Mr. Eric Kaufmann, make sure, if you didn't get that, make sure you go get it. Okay, because this is part 2. We're going to pick up right where we left off. I'll come back with our cash flow question so that you have the ability, so that those of you who sent in the answers, thank you. Those of you who sent in answers, you'll know whether or not you did win tonight, or today, I should say. Actually, it doesn't really matter because I keep forgetting. It's the internet. I don't know when you're listening to this. I just know you're listening to it. Okay. And what it comes down to is I'll let you know at that moment. So we'll take a small break in the middle, get the cash flow question, and I promise we'll get right back to the content. So thanks for listening this far. And here is the rest of that interview with Mr. Eric Kaufmann. Now, in your book, you talk about 4 different, I forgot what you called them, 4 different virtues. That's it.
Virtues, yeah.
Yeah, and so we've talked a little bit about the focus. We've talked about courage. You mentioned grit. Now, for those of us from the South, when we think grit, we think of a food. So, what are you talking about?
No, not the food. I'm talking about grit, the concept of passion and perseverance towards long-term goals.
I see.
That's grit. Being gritty, someone who's stick-to-itiveness might be another term for it. Perseverance is another term for it. But in particular, it's being able to be both passionate and persevering towards a long-term goal. Short-term goals are relatively easy to explode and accomplish, but it's the long-term goal. It's the reach that is so far beyond anything I've ever done that we begin to be disheartened or exhausted or burned out, and we want to quit and give up and turn around. That's where grit becomes so critical, that capacity to stay in the game, to stay with it, and to persevere.
That's funny. It's funny this comes up right now for me, because recently, one of the things, many of my listeners already know that I did not complete college, etc. And I'd been searching for a while, like, what is the biggest value out of a 4-year or whatever college degree? One of the things that I really think that is a great value, at least I've recently come to this realization, is exactly that, is that it gives you an opportunity to develop what you call grit. It gives you an opportunity to develop a plan and of an action and to carry out a long-term goal, because this is not, no matter how hard you try, you're not going to get through it in 3 months. It's something that's going to take time, and you've got to be consistent and do it. And I was like, I think that's probably one of the benefits that, I don't know if, I've never heard that out of a college recruiter's mouth, but I think it's definitely one of the strongest benefits of actually pursuing a degree from a standpoint of, what do I get from going to a particular institution or college, is this notion of long-term goals. I mean, we have so much technology these days between Facebook and Twitter and all this instant messaging. It's a wonder that, we can say the word long-term goal without, coming up on some sort of NSA radar as, doing something wrong. So it's amazing that's what you're talking about here. I find that this concept is definitely needed,
And I really love that you said what you said, Jay. I share this with my friends and colleagues. As a recruiter, when I hire people, I am looking for a college degree. And to your point, what is it about the college degree that's critical to me? The content is less important to me than the completion of the degree, because to your exact point, this is exactly what I focus on, that somebody is 18, 19 years old, was able to find within them the process, the support system, the determination, the perseverance to go through this long 4 or 5 years of attending to a goal, right? Persevering and completing it. To me, that is more valuable than what they learned. Because I went to college, I can't remember 98% of what I learned. And for what it's worth, I was kicked out after a year. I mean, I was disenrolled is what they did because my grades were so bad. So I really had to fight to get back in, and to find my own inner reserves and support system to get it done. But I agree with you wholeheartedly. To me, that's the most critical thing about the college experience is from a recruiting perspective, right, from a hiring perspective, from looking at somebody and saying, look, you are a young person and you were able to dedicate yourself to this difficult task over a long period of time. That is a sign of grit, to your point. That begins a maturation process, a capacity to be dedicated, committed, accountable, scheduled, all those wonderful things that are predictors of success in other areas. It's not the only predictor. This is not about whether going to college is right or wrong. I'm saying, what is it about going to college that is impressive to me? To your point, exactly.
Exactly.
Grit.
And that same determination is necessary to develop a business, is to develop a team, to develop yourself. I mean, I go through this constantly. We all have those moments where you're like, dude, is this worth it? Let me just quit and do something new. You want to jump to the new shiny object. I call it shiny object syndrome because I know I have to consciously resist it. And it's very true for the new investor. For the new investor, they're like, ooh, this deal could pay 5%, but this one pays 6%, and this one does this, and this one does that. And then they just go in 12 different directions. And it's never more true than when you're trying to develop a business for cash flow or a team or yourself into a leader. You got to find a way to stay committed to becoming this leader, to be building that team, to building assets that produce cash flow. I mean, building a single family house to a stable point of producing cash flow, unfortunately, doesn't happen at the click of a button. And it does take what you call grit. And it just doesn't happen overnight. Now it can happen. What I find, and I'm kind of curious as to what you would say, what I find is that I've seen so many people quit just before all of this effort that they've put in has paid off.
It's a cruel, repetitive story, isn't it? To go 90%, 95%, and then not to break that final membrane, that final barrier, and go 100%. And the challenge, Jay, is that while we could say it's 90 or 95%, there really aren't any markers along the way. So we don't know if we're 80%, if we're 90%,
right,
if we're 60%. And that's what makes it grit, right? It's not knowing how close I am, and yet being dedicated and committed to the process and not backing off. And those who push through with it, and I don't want to sound absolute, because there's lots of things that people persevere on that are really the wrong thing. So I can have somebody who's very gritty, very persevering, but they're pushing in a path that's clearly the wrong path. Mm-hmm. So should they persevere? Should they persist in that direction? Absolutely not. And that, to some degree, I'm going to jump ahead because that's what that last one is, faith, or this ability to surrender. A part of being very effective is also recognizing and saying, this is done. This project is over. This relationship is over. This goal is done. I haven't accomplished it, but I have to let it go. And I think there's often a kind of an additional weight that we end up carrying when we say, no, I must finish it. I must see it to the end. But if you've gone wiser and you realize that it's just not the right thing, that's not grit to just keep at it because you said you would. That's silly. It would be important that at some point you have to be able to surrender, to let go, to yield. It doesn't work. It's not the right thing. It's not the right relationship. It's not the right investment. I mean, how many times do you talk to people about the tyranny of sunk costs? What is that all about? Right? Oh, no, I've already put so much time into it. I've already put so much money into it. I can keep going. Where the entire universe is saying it's not going to work. Now, sometimes everyone says it's not going to work, and we have to prove them wrong. We push on, and it works. And sometimes when everyone says it's not going to work, it really is not going to work.
Right.
And so developing that sensitivity is also part of grit. It's also part of the journey. Right? What am I going to yield? Because we tend to think about just more and more and more. But in order to move faster along the path, sometimes we have to shed things. We have to let go of things, whether those are people, whether those are relationships, whether those are projects, or very importantly, whether those are ideas or thoughts. Sometimes we have to surrender something, to let it go in order to persevere towards what's really important.
Got it. What else would you say would be some additional hindrances or barriers to someone developing grit?
One of the great barriers to developing grit is confusion. So if I don't know what it is that I'm going after, how could I possibly continue to go after it? So not being clear is a barrier. And so in my sort of model of framework, the first virtue is focus, which answers the question, what am I creating? We've got to get clear about what are we trying to create. The second virtue is courage, which is willing to then take steps away from the familiar and the known to embrace the unknown and to embrace uncertainty. The third one is grit, to persevere, and the fourth one is faith, to yield. But confusion is a great way to get in the way of grit. The other one that gets in the way of grit is this whole, we talked about it earlier, self-negation. Like, I'm not, you fill in the X. I'm not X enough. I'm not smart enough. I'm not rich enough. I'm not, fast enough. I'm not educated enough. Those are self-limiting, self-negating beliefs, and the more we give those energy, the less likely we are to persevere. And so we have to learn to come to a different relationship with that self-negating conversation. And to some degree, we addressed that earlier. And there's one other one I'll throw out because you brought up this whole, Twitterverse and short attention span universe we kind of live in. The notion of multitasking. Every bit of research that's out there is proving that multitasking is a limiting factor. And by multitasking, I mean trying to think or cognitively apply your brain to more than one important thing at a time. We want to be efficient. We want to be good. We want to be successful. So we do this, and this, and there's 5 or 6 applications open on the computer. There are 6 emails I'm answering at the same time. I'm talking on the phone while I'm eating lunch. This whole idea of multitasking, while it seems like it's virtuous at some level, it is a true diminishing factor to the ability to be gritty because we can't apply ourselves wholly to any one thing. And so, to your point, wealth is a team sport. Multitasking means that I'm doing things I should not be doing at this point or at all. And so part of what helps you be gritty is also this team. If I commit myself to somebody else, if I work with a partner, if I work with a team, I somehow feel more of a need to follow through sometimes than if it's just all on my own. I don't know if you've had that experience, but even with all my sort of self-discipline and all that effort to be self-directed, I still do way better in a team than I do on my own.
Oh, absolutely. In fact, I think it was just in the previous episode, I was giving some tips on how I call it trapping myself to be successful no matter what. Because what ends up happening is that I'll tell people I'll tell a lot of people that I'm going to do something, as evidenced either by maybe this podcast or we recently started a mastermind group. It takes a lot of energy for me to commit to 10, 20, 30, 40, 50 people at a time that I'm going to help them go through a process. And I know that before I say it, but if I never say it, then no one ever knows, and I don't have to worry about trying to push myself or being held accountable to anything. And it doesn't, therefore it never happens. But by simply stating that, I do whatever I can to make that happen. I also like to tell people that one of my intentions is to own 1,000 free and clear units of real estate in the U.S. as well as 1 million square feet of commercial in the U.S. And I tell people that on purpose because what ends up happening is that other people will randomly hold me accountable because this goes out to, thousands of people. At random times, people will say, how's this going and how's that going? And it begins to be this thing where I know at some point, at any random point, someone's going to ask me, how's it going? And I always want to be the person who has progress to report. And because some of the people when I first started, I told them what I wanted to accomplish. And now they ask me today, and they ask, how many units you're at. And we're a little over 350 right now. And they go, wow, that's more than last time. I'm like, uh-huh. And they're like, you were serious about that? Yes, I was. And thank you for helping. And they don't understand the thank you for helping. It's because I know they're going to keep accountability. That accountability I think that accountability becomes more important the less quote unquote necessary it is. And I ran into this, and I'm kind of curious to hear what you would say. I ran into a situation in which we were doing enough business that was more than what we needed to live personally. So there was really no, like, if I don't do something, I won't eat, motivation behind it. So what about to those individuals? Because I've heard the term maybe a fear of success, or they're comfortable. They don't really have to do something, but they would like to do something. How is it? I feel I now have come to the conviction that was limiting me, but I can't say that I necessarily understand it all. But it sounds like, it's a lack of courage. It's not, is it a lack of grit? Is it a faith thing? What would you say to that? And, with your experience?
So you're asking about this phenomenon sometimes referred to as fear of success, or,
right.
or
yeah,
I don't think that's.
I don't know.
I don't think fear of success is a. I mean, it's a phenomenon we're familiar with, but I don't believe it to be what it's claimed to be. In other words, it's not the success that we're afraid of. So if you ask somebody, what is it about success that you're afraid of? What will they typically say? They'll say things like, well, too many people are going to want things from me, or it's going to take a whole lot of energy to be able to maintain the empire that I've created, and I won't be able to have any peace. Or nonprofits are going to be knocking on my door all the time for donations. Or I won't really know who my friends are because people will just want my money. Right? Those are the kinds of things that often I've heard from people who talk about fear of success.
Right.
Those are not the success features that they're afraid of. They're afraid of the other things that they can't control, right? So what they're afraid of is, one of the big ones is fear of success. I'll be so successful, but then I won't be able to maintain it. That's just the fear of failure, my friend. That's not fear of success. That's a very sophisticated mind, sort of story about fear of failure. And so, again, what they're really saying is either I don't want to fail, I don't want to look bad, I don't want to lose my friends, which is one version, or they're saying I'm just comfortable, I don't want to put out the effort. And I think we should never underestimate the seductive power of comfort.
Yeah.
Comfort is a seductive little concept, and we strive in many ways to just be comfortable. If you think, I was at a birthday party the other day, and one of the guests there was the grandmother. Grandma, she's 85 years old. And we got into a conversation about, so what's it like to be 85? I mean, I'm decades away. I'm really curious.
Right.
And the conversation came down to this, where for her, it was about managing her energy. She said it wasn't about health. It wasn't about friends. Yes, it's important to have good friends, and it's absolutely critical to have health, but it's about energy. If I don't have energy, everything else doesn't count. I can have the money, I can have the friends, I can have the social circle, but if I don't have vitality, if I don't have energy, then what is this life about? And I think about that when my clients are CEOs, typically, and executives of organizations, entrepreneurs or business owners or executives, and so much of the conversation is about energy. How much energy do you have? How much energy can you gain? How much energy are you blowing away? How much energy are you wasting? And comfort is that sort of desire to minimize the expenditure of energy. And so there's a huge temptation, a huge seductive force for comfort in our lives. And I think people who are saying they're afraid of success are really either saying they're afraid of failure, or they're saying, I'm not willing to put out the energy. I'm comfortable. And maybe that's fine. Maybe they're happy. Maybe it's just a matter of time until they realize they're not really happy. They're just coasting. And you can't coast for long because you begin to deteriorate. Energy is a funny thing. You have to expend energy to create energy. It's kind of like you have to spend money to make money. And so these truths, unfortunately, are sort of unarguable. You can try to work against it, but you're going to have to come to reality eventually. So fear of success, I'm not buying it. It's either a misguided fear of failure, or it's somebody saying, I just don't have the energy, and I don't know how to manage or create the energy. And that's where the conversation should go then.
Okay. Now, whether you realize this or not, one of the reasons this is the cash flow diary is simply because it's kind of me going through this process, getting to the 1,000 units in the U.S. and the 1 million square feet of commercial space, also in the U.S. And as I go through this, I experience different things. That last question was all really for me because I was just kind of, I mean, it's the thought that I've had before many times, thoughts that I think. And what's been awesome for me is since having that interview and having my own thoughts reframed, just how much more productive, the entire company has been, how much more productive I've been. In fact, you probably heard that at the beginning of this particular episode, like, wow, they've got a lot going on. Yes, we do. We have a lot going on, and there's going to be a lot more. My ideas just started flowing, and I'm just like, cool, let's just go for it and have some fun. And in this process, you guys get to come along, and we all get to have fun, and hopefully you learn some things too, and more importantly, are able to duplicate a lot of what I'm doing my best to document as we go through this process. So you're going through it with me. Thanks for tuning in. Hopefully you're liking it. We're not done yet. Let's get over to the cash flow question. So last time, you probably are beginning to notice a theme to the questions, and that theme shall continue with this particular next question. But the question from last time was, where is it reported that the Federal Reserve was created? Where is it reported that the Federal Reserve was created? The answer is Jekyll Island. That is the name, or one of the names, if you will, that we were looking for. The answer is Jekyll Island. So this particular week's question, obviously, is going to have a similar theme. So here are the answers. There's one of 4 correct answers on this particular one. Who are purported to be the founders of the Federal Reserve? Who are purported to be the founders of the Federal Reserve? Now, if you're wondering, what is this question about and what do I do? Well, those who are sending in answers are attempting to win a signed autographed copy of my upcoming book, Cash Flow Creation System, in which I go through literally a system of how to create cash flow strictly from your ideas. And I document the process of how I've been able to do that. Many of you, if you've listened to episode 1, you know that my wife and I started with very little from a material standpoint. I had a punctured lung, could not walk and talk. My wife had almost died 3 times. We were living and squatting in bank-owned property. There was lots of challenges, we'll say, on top of learning a new skill, having children, et cetera, trying to eat. And now we do have a few hundred units across the U.S. We do lots of services and try to help as many people as we possibly can, of which this podcast is one. And sometimes when I go speaking, people ask me, hey, have you written a book yet? For a long time, I said no, but it's coming soon. Cash Flow Creation System. If you want to win a free copy with my autograph, feel free to go to or answer the question and send in your answer to cashflowquestion@cashflowdiary.com, cashflowquestion@cashflowdiary.com, or you can call in to 800-689-1764. Again, 800-689-1764. That will also be an acceptable way for you to send in your answer. All right, enough of me. Let's get back to the interview. Nice. Love it completely. Now, we have a little bit of time left, and I'm curious because there's a concept or a word in your book. I'm going to do my best to pronounce it, and I just got to understand what it is. And I believe I'm going to say this right. It's psychosclerosis? Is that right?
Psychosclerosis, yeah.
What is that?
It's psychosclerosis. So here's what psychosclerosis is. I was on a flight from San Diego to Minneapolis, Twin Cities, and I sat down next to this guy, and we did the dance that sometimes happens when you sit next to somebody in the plane. I said, hey, how you? My name is this. What's your name? What do you do? What do you do? That's kind of how guys do it, right? What do you do? Right. And so I said, well, I'm an executive coach. I'm an author. I work with I consult to individuals and organizations to help them make better decisions and achieve better results. They're going to have to grow. And he said, oh, my company tried that once. They got me a coach. That didn't really work. I haven't changed in 20 years, and I'm proud of it. And I was thinking, oh, my God, I can't get my headphones out fast enough to stop this conversation. I got to cut off. This guy was suffering from psychosclerosis. He was proud that he hasn't changed in 20 years. That's a disease, my friend. That's not a pride. That's not something to be proud of. So if you think of arteriosclerosis, right? We know what arteriosclerosis is. It's the hardening of the arteries, right? It's when the plaque and the vessels become hard and crusted, and blood flow is very difficult. It actually is the precursor to heart attacks and strokes and serious health issues. So if arteriosclerosis is the hardening of the arteries, which causes disease at the physical level, then psychosclerosis is the calcification, hardening of the mind, which causes death of creativity and evolution. And I get really concerned when I meet people who don't want to grow, don't want to evolve, don't want to challenge themselves. They only want to be comfortable. And so psychosclerosis is it's kind of a made-up term, but it says this is somebody whose mind has calcified, it's hardened, and they can no longer generate new ideas. They can't be creative. They won't grow. And it's the beginning of a spiritual death, if not a physical one. And
Wow.
it is the antithesis, it's the opposite of what it means to live life as a hero's journey. It's the antithesis of creation. It's the antithesis of contribution. It's a slow spiritual death that may not show it in the body for years and years and years.
You know, what's I don't know if this is sad or unfortunate, or I just know there are a number of people that I know right now who are suffering from psychosclerosis, and and for rightly or wrongly, many times they say, I've already gone to college. I don't need to learn anything more. I'm just going to have the same experience. And I don't know what to say to them, how to help them past that point of just being willing to unlearn, relearn, try again, and learn something new, because the world is ever changing. It's not the same. It's not your grandma's, world. It's just not. And therefore it requires us to adapt, especially at the rate at which we can produce content and information and knowledge, and we have access to individuals who have great wisdom to share in theory as well as in practice, and that's amazing to me. But yes, psychosclerosis. I know a few people who could you don't have now we're going to have to talk about your new drug that's going to come out, and that's going to have a very fluffy commercial with a very long explanation of how it causes heart attacks and failures and all this stuff to the body. But I'm assuming there's no prescription for psychosclerosis yet.
Well, it's interesting to hear you say that, because it is in fact failure and heart attack, cancer, divorce, and being fired that usually is what starts breaking up the psychosclerosis.
That is true. You are so right. I mean,
and so some of us just are unwilling to volunteer for the evolution, for the growth, for the challenge, and we're having to be pushed into it, right? So I remember working with an executive who had been married for 25 years, and in one of our meetings, I came in and said, "Wow, Sean, you look really disheartened. What happened?" He said, "My wife just walked out on me after 25 years." And I said, "Oh, that's awful. That's awful. I mean, imagine being married for 25 years and the relationship breaks up. I mean, there might be very good reasons for it." But I asked him, "So was this a surprise to you?" And he said, "Completely took me by surprise." And I thought, which is probably why she walked out on you, my friend, because you haven't paid attention to her in probably decades. And you don't even know that your relationship is in trouble. You're stuck. There was a psychosclerosis element. There's a frozen state to their relationship. And it took her walking out on him to sort of snap him out of that calcified thinking and have him start looking at the world with fresher eyes. First, it was very hurt eyes. It was pain. It was agony. It was torture to him. But it also was a wake-up call. And so I think that it takes more courage to perpetuate the wake-up call for ourselves, to choose to do something differently than it does to allow the world to sort of beat us up and force us out of our frozen state.
Totally.
But again, that's where good teachers, good mentors, good allies, that's where it goes a long way. And who we surround ourselves with is going to determine who we are. I heard somebody said, and I forget who it was, I'd love to attribute it to them, that we're the sum total of the 5 closest people that we hang around with.
Right.
So, choosing who we're with. Are we with people who are really doing everything in their power to just maintain their low level of energy? Or are we with people who are choosing to embrace this unique experience called living? Because as far as I can tell, I've never been who I am, and I will never again be this person. So I have this one chance to discover what it means to be Eric Kaufmann in my full experience.
Indeed. If you've enjoyed what our guest has had to share with you today, because I if you can't tell, I am loving it a lot. You probably want to go pick up his book. You can get it from his website at sagatica.com. That's SAGATICA.com. Sagatica.com. masterclass.com. Go there, get his book, Leadership as a Hero's Journey, currently available. He will even autograph it for you, so you got to give him your name. All right. And he'll get it out to you. But you definitely want to take the time to take that next step, because don't suffer from psychosclerosis. And don't, I think I'm going to use that term now over and over again, because that is definitely a condition that I have seen out in the marketplace. And you're presenting some of the cures, and one of the thing is hear him. Don't wait for something bad to happen before you're snapped out of it. I mean, many of you know the story. My wife and I, we had to experience a lot of negative things in order to break the cycle of go to school, get good grades, get a job. That type of thinking didn't serve us. It may serve you, and it may serve you well right now. But the question is there a possibility that it may not serve you well in the future? And if so, you probably want to pick up his book. You want to break that cycle and do it willfully. A friend of mine recently said, it is better to be willfully shed as opposed to be broken open. And it's a choice that you and I get to absolutely make. So Eric, is there anything else that you would like to share with anyone regarding, your book or Sagatica, or how, that person who's listening, they're like, it's a new year. I want to make more money. I want my company to do better. What would you say to that person who's listening right now?
I would say I applaud their desire. I would passionately hope that they get my book. I put a lot of heart and soul and time and effort into putting thoughts into paper that would help catalyze people onto their own journey. So by all means, I would love folks to buy the book and ask me questions. Don't just read it passively. The book is not a breezy read. It requires reflection, and it's very accessible. But I put a lot of effort to challenge people in their thinking. I would absolutely recommend them, if they want to, continue to evolve their financial and their real estate, that they connect with you and the programs that you have. I mean, that's what you're committed to, and that's what you're passionate about and doing. And I think it would be silly for them not to reach out and engage in the support, in the process, in the content, in the experience of working with you and whatever you're putting together to help propel them. And if I could be a resource to their organizations, I work with executives and executive teams, either in facilitation or consulting. I do a tremendous amount of keynote speaking, any of those ways that I can come out and continue to promote the ideas, and even beyond that, engage with folks in groups or one-on-one to challenge their thinking and help them evolve. That's my passion, much like it is yours.
Indeed. And the thing to understand, at the core of all of this, whether it's real estate, whether it's a technology business, whether it's, a new franchise that you're doing, you're the leader. And success, as we've talked about earlier, success is a team sport, not just, success. If you're a husband, you're the leader. If you're the mother of kids, you're the leader. It doesn't really matter what type of leader you are. You're likely a leader in some sort of circle. And these thoughts, whether rightly or wrongly, whether you've been conscious about them or not, they're affecting you. Many of us say that we've had 20 years of experience when in actuality, we've had the same experience for 20 consecutive years. And we suffer from a really mild case of psychosclerosis. I'm going to keep using that because that is so awesome to me. And we want to get rid of it. Here's an opportunity to do just that, to actually begin to make this year, this moment, this month, this second different than the last second, so that you can be a new version of you. You will never be the same you again. And that's that. All of these things are very, very key concepts. Sir, I definitely appreciate you taking the time to share with our audience, and I definitely appreciate you being here today to share with us your wisdom, your insight, and your expertise. Thank you very, very much.
Thank you, Jay. I appreciate the time. I appreciate what you're doing, and I appreciate who you're being. So I look forward to more conversations.
Okay. I think that was awesome. Hopefully you got a lot out of that. I know that I did. If any of this obviously sparked some additional interest and you are now ready to tackle some things, as you heard me say at the beginning, I'm going to begin taking your deal review questions live. So if you've got questions about deals that you're in the middle of, it doesn't really matter to me. Send them over. If you're trying to raise some capital, send it over. Dealreview@cashflowdiary.com. We'll be going live, cashflowdiary.tv. Go over there, get some information if you want it. And as a reminder, Cashflow Diary Daily is now in iTunes. It's daily 2 to 5 minutes, giving you some quick wisdom and information to get in, get out there, go get some stuff done. And don't forget, go to Learn Investing Now. We're currently talking about raising private capital. Mastermind Group is starting in the live version. Me, I am there with you for 12 consecutive weeks, helping you to go through the process of raising private capital. That is starting today. So learninvestingnow.com. Get over there, get signed up so that I can meet you and help you in a very tangible way to gain access to the capital, the currency that you need to unlock the potential of your dreams. Look forward to talking to you guys soon. Until next time.
Thank you for investing your time with Jay Massey and the Cashflow Diary. When you have a moment, please visit iTunes and leave a positive comment about the show. And go now to our website, cashflowdiary.com, to take advantage of our free business building course, Cashflow Foundation. Gain the knowledge, understanding, and skill that will teach you how to never need a job again. Until next time.